So welcome to the Node add-on API team meeting for April 8th, 2022. We'll follow our standard approach of taking a look at the things we've had tagged for Milestone 11. Let me just stop that. And so before we get started, anybody have any announcements or anything that they'd like to talk about? Okay. The first thing I think just before we launch into the regular thing is I did want to, before I forget, mention, the Collaborator Summit is coming up in June. I don't know if how many people are going to be able to make it there, but I just wondered if we should think about having a session in the Collaborator Summit or something like that. I don't know if anybody who's here is planning to make it.
Is it a collaborator for the node.js as a whole, or like it's Node API specific?
So there's a Collaborator Summit after OpenJS World, and there's 2 days. And so there's space set aside for the Node project. So there'll be topics on a number of different things. But we could propose like a 1-hour session or something like that related to Node add-on API, or it's basically up to collaborators to propose what would make sense to have a session and talk about on. But the main difference between what we do week to week would be, if people are there in person, it's been a good opportunity to actually do something face to face.
Where is it physically?
It's in Austin, Texas.
Oh,
Here, I can give you the JS World. There's the link to the conference itself. And there's the 2 days. The first 2 days are the actual conference. And then the following 2 days are like a collaborator summit, not just for Node, but for the other OpenJS projects. But I do know that we have like 2 rooms booked for those 2 days for Node. So we can have quite a 2-day Node collaborator set of sessions that we can fill in and propose. So we don't need to decide now or anything, but I wanted to start people thinking about that. Should we have a session? If so, what would that be? And it's the time to start submitting suggestions or sessions if we think one makes sense. Okay, I will bring up the GitHub. Just get to the right place first. Okay, everybody should be able to see the Milestone 11 now.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so stale issues, so we can flip over to there. Okay, so there's nothing new, but let's look at some of these ones.
Yeah, I briefly looked at this issue about none.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't go in details, but what I understood from none, what they do, they mentioned here the macro, but macro is nothing more but just they kind of hide in this signature of the getter. And right. Signature of the getter has additional property. So think about it, our getter signature has only kind of a callback info, right? It pretty much has all this information, what type of arguments we're kind of receiving and stuff. But in none, they have additional parameter, which is of type of kind of V8 string. I mean, whatever, like wrapped up V8 string, which effectively property name. And what this developer, they're asking about, can they access this property name inside of getter function? So if you look on the example, right. They shown like they have this property parameter in the middle line, right? It's yep. You see. So what happened like this non-getter macro inside has this property parameter. This property parameter name is a type of string. As you see here, like they convert into whatever like V8 string type, they convert into a non-string and using it somehow.
Right. Right. Okay. So basically they can write one method that says, well, okay, tell me which one I'm being asked for. And they can use the same one across all the getters.
Technically, yes. Yeah, it's an interesting point. So we effectively today are required to have different static methods for all our properties. But in their case, they can have one static method, static
Right.
method, which they can share across all properties.
Right. And I guess you started by saying they have the property name. Do we have the property name? I mean,
so what happened, like I don't see like in our both APIs, like a C level APIs and C++ level API, we don't define property itself. Instead of we define like property descriptors, and
right.
property descriptor technically it receives property name, right?
Yep.
But whatever signature of our function, what we pass in, it does not receive this property name.
Right. Okay. So let's just look at some of the code itself. So should I look at this is on the Node add-on API side, right, versus the core?
Yeah, we can probably go to C API, like in the core, just a kind of capability of.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Then we define
that's sort of if the info is there or not, right?
Yes. Yes. Because if it's there, we can always put it in C++. If it's not there, it's difficult. It will be difficult to do.
So we want to look at the JS.
Yeah, it's a JS native API. JS native API.
JS native.
Right. Okay. This
type,
one, right?
types.
Yeah. So we want to look at property. Is it? No.
No, we need to look at define or create property descriptor, something about property.
Right. Okay.
Yes. So this is the way we kind of typically creating a bunch of properties.
I guess I need to look at what's in.
Yeah, in type.
Yeah, types.
Yeah, where are we?
Below.
Hey, right, yeah. Property descriptor. Right. Okay. So here is the.
So whenever we're creating property descriptor, we do have name and we have and stuff. But the question is like in their case, like we see an API callback in some sense receiving this property name.
Right.
And I'm not sure if we do it.
So let's take a look back here, right? So this is like it would be the callback or nappy callback.
No, callback was still there in types. Sorry.
You should search.
Maybe I should open that one separate.
Yeah.
Easy.
I don't know why somehow my browser has decided every time I type in Node to give me that full thing, but anyway.
It looks like it remembers the most often used link. It does to me.
Yeah, well, I haven't used that one for so long, but probably because it goes there again, it continues to fool itself. Right, so I want types. API types, right? Okay,
so our API callback receives pretty much just info stuff. You see this an API callback info.
Right. So now we need to look at that.
Callback info.
Okay, so this is going to be opaque. So
I think like our callback info not supposed to have it. It should be in types. It should be also in types. Different type. Yeah.
I think but it's you just have methods that you can like you can't interpret the callback info
Oh,
yourself.
yes,
You
you're right.
have to
Sorry,
ask the
sorry.
callback info
It's
for stuff.
OPEC, you're right. Sorry. You're
So
right.
like we can get the callback info. So here we could say, okay, give us the callback info and we can get the arguments.
I see, yes. But among these arguments, we don't have property name. So I believe what none does, like they kind of, whenever they allow you to build an object, they're probably doing something on top of it, like additional infrastructure.
Right, because we just, all we know is it's a, we just know that it's, yeah, you get, right, so you know which property you're being asked for strictly because you've gotten the method, you know the method that you've bound it to.
Right. And I can't think about any kind of immediate, simple way for us to do it. Pretty much during property registration, we probably need to somehow, if we're using kind of C++ templates, I can see how we can potentially do this magic.
Right.
But, yeah.
So, but you're saying like on this, on the node add-on API side, we might be able to do something where we.
So we pretty much, if we register a property descriptor,
Yeah.
we can probably somewhere, like, imagine if we don't use this property descriptor exactly the same as on C side, but we maybe have a little bit more extended one, which we persist along with object itself. And whenever this method, whatever we're given registered, we somehow can send also property name. So in this case, we can potentially, we will have probably different signature for the property getter, to which we can give those stuff. But technically, short answer to this question, no, we cannot do it today. But we may think about like if we want to add it.
Right. Right. So, okay. So we talked about this in the. Yeah, it's like. Yeah, it's almost though like we'd have to bundle the name in somehow, right? Like where is that property coming from in the NAND case?
I only briefly looked at this issue.
Yeah,
let's look in more details. I guess question like, do we want to have similar facility for our needs or not?
Right. So I'm just gonna look. Because
technically speaking, from JavaScript point of view, JavaScript itself, JavaScript object model does not provide it. Like the Node API so far was very kind of close to what JavaScript API is. And
yeah, we were basically just wanting to be that plus.
Yeah, if you go to none.h.
Yeah, plus things that would help us migrate.
So you see, it's sort of, if you look on non-getter, this essentially, see, this is how they declare a function. So we're only providing function name, and then you have a signature which has first parameter with property of, okay, actually V8 string.
Yeah.
And then they have a bunch of different getter arguments or not. And then we need to look at this was a method to register stuff.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about like the templating. Can we effectively would there be a way to have a template that bundles the name into.
Okay, so they have a method which called, if you look in none.h, called set accessor. Set accessor.
Right. Is
Michael,
it
sorry.
uppercase or lowercase?
I think that there is cabin
Oh,
that
thanks.
are waiting.
Yeah. So sorry, you said set accessor?
Uh-huh. So set accessor is a method which they use to it's one word, so set accessor without
Yeah.
underscore. Okay. So
right.
this method they use to register this getter optional etc.
Yeah.
And I guess they're doing some kind of some template magic here. Yeah.
Right. It's almost, I mean, they're adding a new field to the object, an internal field. And that's a place you could store extra information like the name.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if we want to do it or not. Like it's, I kind of a little bit. It's what I kind of like about current Node APIs that we have pretty much as close as possible to JavaScript object model. JavaScript object model does not provide this information. If people want to do it, they can potentially do it on their own. But I don't know. I'm a little skeptical. Yeah. It's but I will defer to you guys.
I think go ahead.
Is this possible with other JavaScript engine other than V8?
I think like the storing internal, we already use internal fields. So it would be, it's not, we must have decided that that's common enough that that's okay. Because I'm pretty sure we've used internal fields or some equivalent to store information on objects, additional information on objects. The question, I guess, is this at this point is, you know, there's no easy way to do this, right?
Yeah, there's no easy way to do it ourselves. Like, yeah.
Right.
I mean, like somebody who's using our APIs, it's not easy for them to do it. Actually.
Right.
Because there is no way to do it. Unless the only way I can think of is actually whenever people have this, they're providing this function pointer, they can use some template magic and make
right.
So instead of like having specific functions, they may actually have this template, and kind of this static function is a template, and this function effectively whatever template parameter would be whatever was given during registration, and then something possible along this way.
Right, you could give it a, I don't know if it's like some sort of the type name or whatever.
Right. So let's think about it like I guess my question, like, do we want to do it or not? If we have some idea that we would like to have this facility, let's think about it. But I guess first question, like, do we want to do it or not?
It's the I would have started with maybe not, but if it's like a shortcut that there's in then and it's going to slow people down, although this is something that isn't going to prevent you from doing it. Yeah, so I guess like here, like I think we'd be interested in somebody providing a solution, but it might be that they would go into documentation versus anything else. Okay. Like if there was some way to do this through template magic, if we had here's a few lines that you can use to achieve this, I think that would be really interesting, and I'd want to put it in our doc somewhere. What I don't know is whether that would mean we would want to put the support ourselves in, right?
Well, technically speaking, maybe we just need to provide this macro. I guess like in the end, what probably goes like the way I would think it could potentially be done, like so imagine you have a macro, you provide into this macro whatever like property name you want, and this property name can be magically used to kind of specialize some template parameter for some template thing. If you like, I can think about like how we can achieve the same stuff. Basically, my first answer was like we can't do it today.
Sure. Yeah, I know.
The question, how we can work around it.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I look at that as it is kind of an interesting thing where like, if you're going to have a whole bunch of getters, and if you can basically use the same method, given that you know the name, I can understand how that might be a common use case, right?
Yes. But the question, like, it will definitely talk about like a convenience for developers, like a convenience that for people who actually they kind of write code in one single place. But let me think more about this stuff.
Yeah. So it
because
depends,
I kind of feel at this point like we can actually, by we going to provide something which looks more simple, but in the end it may produce much more binary code during compilation, and something what I would like to us avoid doing.
Right.
Doing.
Yeah. So, but I could see that like we could just put it in the doc somewhere if it's like, well, here's if we think of a way to do it, but it's not like something it doesn't mean we necessarily need to add it to the API. Unless we look at that and say, well, that's simple, makes sense, everybody's going to need it or whatever. But
actually, it actually popped up in my mind. One way I know how to do it in plain JavaScript, it will actually implement proxy.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't think we'd want to do that for all getters and setters, right?
No.
Because adding that extra interaction would okay. But yeah, if you're willing to think a little bit more about that and like if there's some template magic or something, if nothing else, documenting that template magic would add value, I think. Okay, there's that one. This one. I don't think there's any update on that one this week.
No.
And I think that's what we had on the list. So maybe we can flip over to, okay, I'll flip back to the tracking issues. I don't think there's anything new there. I don't think there's anything radically different here, just still sort of that slow trend.
It's
upward.
growing.
Yeah. Try for full coverage. General Jack, you got anything new on this front?
Sorry, I've been like neglecting this for a while, but I was trying to fill some of the testing holes this week. Some time.
Sounds great. Debug testing I haven't done, and then okay, so we can look at the issues. I do have one which it would be great if I don't know if somebody has had a chance to take a look at it, but it would be great if somebody could take a look at this PR, because I think we definitely want to land it before we do the next release. This is just reverting some of the changes we did on const to avoid breaking some code. So that'd be the one I would call out. Any other ones that people have on top of their mind?
Yes, I have been trying to work on that one, the formatting all the code, which had the issue with the typed ThreadSafe function or whatever.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I installed an Ubuntu VM and tried to run the tests, and I am not able to replicate it after a couple hundred attempts of running the tests.
Right.
One thing that I noticed is that I'm not entirely sure if it's using the node version that it says that it's running on. If you can go back once you
Sorry,
finish
yeah.
whatever you're doing here.
Yeah, no, I was just
yeah, if
taking
you
a
go
look at
back
the-
to my last two comments on this
Okay.
conversation. The second to last one has some. I noticed that in the build log for node 14, it's actually using the include files for node 16. And then in the last comment, there's this deprecation warning when, because I guess somewhere in the tests, we tried to write to process config, and I don't get that warning in my local node 14 tests, only with node 16. So I'm wondering if it is actually using the correct version of node that it's supposed to be using.
I mean, I guess the version of node that's being used to run must be whatever you installed, right? Because
Right. And I looked at the GitHub workflows, and it does correctly install the right node version.
Mhm.
But I don't know why it's using node 16 here. And then if you look at my last comment, this there's a deprecation warning that I was talking about. If you scroll down a little bit, this setting process config is deprecated. That only shows in node 16. So I'm not, so it's popping up, this warning is popping up on the test for node 14. So I'm really thinking that the CI is not running it on the correct version of node in GitHub.
okay, that would be a. So if you've got like, so here, this is like the 14.
If you check the 14 GCC failure for Ubuntu,
This one, okay, right.
yeah, let's look at that one. So here we can see that, it's linking with node 16, which I suppose is okay because it's just the headers or whatever.
Yeah, it's possible it gets the wrong header, like node.js is getting the wrong headers.
Right. But then when it actually runs the test, so there's this set up dependencies task job, I guess, or step.
Well, this is
Yeah, we
definitely, yeah,
also-
like this definitely seems to think it's using 16.
Right. And it does install system dependencies there. The third one, right.
We should be able
The
to
third,
look at the GitHub actions, the workflows, because we must
Yeah.
have. Is that this one?
yes. So on line 23, I think it had, or yeah, so there it installs the dependencies, and then 30 for use node.js, it uses NVS to add and use the correct version. And we see that like it console logs in the build also the correct version of node. But I don't know why. Yeah, and that use node.js 14.
So that's actually the right.
And you can see that it says 14 for node and 6 for npm.
Right.
So it does install the correct one, but it doesn't look like it's using the correct one in the actual tests.
I guess Ubuntu 18 comes with Node 16 by default. That would be the only other place, the reason, like the only other way it was coming with something, right?
That would, I suppose, make sense. because I guess the actual Ubuntu doesn't, but the one that GitHub uses for its actions runner, maybe, because you know it has some pre-installed packages or
Right.
whatever. Because on my VM, I had to install Node directly.
Right. That's the only thing I could think of, is that somehow those actions are. So that, I think that's interesting, but I wonder if it's even related to the problem. Because I'm just looking here at like our regular runs.
Right. So this
See.
is Jenkins. Okay.
So this is like, this is, and I've seen failures there too. So like here, okay, console log. Right. So I
Okay.
don't think it's strictly related to, there may be some funniness there for sure, but it wouldn't be going on here unless we look at is there anything in here that, I guess we don't get enough info to tell if it's like if no JIP was sending the wrong headers or something, but
Right, because in our test JavaScript, we output the the NAPI process version, but not the node version. But yeah, we see there it's 12.
yeah.
Okay. So I have not been able to replicate, and I don't really know. Like I looked at the test and everything looks fine. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Maybe I can try getting a Debian VM instead of Ubuntu, but it's weird that, if it fails on the CI for Debian or for Ubuntu, I should be able to replicate. But maybe
Yeah,
it's
it
one of
seems to
those
happen
things.
quite a lot too. We could possibly get you access to one of these machines. I don't know why would it happen here so easily is the question. So let's look, just looking at this, and the CentOS here seems to be the other.
That failed on async progress worker.
Right.
If it's async issues, that it's all can be timing issue. Like
Yep.
it can be even like you can install Debian on your machine, but that's because you have a little bit different hardware.
Exactly.
You don't even see it. It's I had to deal with some such issues like sometimes, and
This one definitely is the most common though. That's
Okay. Were there any failures for Ubuntu 18 here? If you can see in the past couple of runs.
yeah, let's go. Well, here we can go back to Ubuntu 18. Here we should be able to see the history. It looks to all be happy.
Okay.
Happy here, but not happy in the
In the GitHub CI, right?
Yeah.
So this sort of, inconsistent failures and whatnot. I'm unable to replicate it. I guess I can try getting a Debian VM to see if it behaves like this CI does then.
Yeah.
But like I mentioned, I looked at the test and I can't see anything wrong. The only thing I can think of next would be just like maybe making a separate branch that adds a bunch of like STD couts in the native side, just for like additional debugging or something like that, just to like print some stuff to try to see where it's failing or where it's hanging.
Yeah.
And then just keep on pushing stuff to the CI to see where it fails.
Yeah. Makes
I mean,
sense.
Yeah,
Guess I could try
see how
that.
it will actually introduce some additional synchronization for you, and you may not see anything.
Right. You know, like, because if I've changed the implementation, who knows if it'll actually work just by adding those things, because it is funky, intermittent.
I guess my question, I don't know Linux that much, and on Windows we typically have something what we call Watson dump. Like, so technically, whenever we have some kind of crash, we can collect some dump file, and then we can actually have a snapshot of memory and stuff load inside of a debugger and see what exactly happened. Like, you can at least look at this stuff. I wonder if Linux has something like this.
Yeah,
There
you
is-
can get like a core dump,
Yeah, but
but
the
you'd have
thing
to
is,
kill it while it's hung.
yeah, we would need to kill it, and because it's not actually crashing. What's happening is that it's just not, for example, resolving some promise somewhere, or either on the JavaScript side or resolving a future in the native side. So since none of that's happening, the process is just stopped waiting for something to occur that never does. So there is no actual core dump that occurs.
Oh, this issue is like we waiting for result and waiting forever.
Yeah.
It's not okay. It's not a crash. It's something what not been completed.
Right. Because there's some synchronization done on the native side, because it uses both mutexes and futures. And then there's also some synchronization done in the JavaScript side using promises. So there could be something incorrect with the test there. But I did took a look, and I couldn't find anything. So I guess now I'll try getting a Debian VM to see, because it seems like Debian is usually failing the most. If I can reproduce it, then I could do these, like adding the console logs and STDC outs without having to continuously push and wait, flood up the CIs and whatnot.
Yeah. Interestingly, like, I'm just looking like I don't. Oh, there's an 18. Okay, so I was just trying to see, like, do we see it across all of the? This might be. Yeah. Okay. I was trying to see, is it a particular version of Node itself? But oh, wait a sec. That's at 18. Hold on. I was looking for. It says version 18. So maybe is it this one where it failed? 18.
Kevin, you mentioned you're using futures and C++ future.
I believe that is the case. Yes.
So I wonder, like, if different versions of Linux may potentially using different implementation of standard library, and maybe there is some kind of issues with implementation of standard library with future, because I know that people generally hate standards future, and probably not so much love, and maybe some issues there.
Right. I guess this specific test uses mutexes and condition variables. This one doesn't have futures then. But you're right, like maybe there are different implementations with standard library for those things.
And we haven't necessarily made any changes around ThreadSafe function.
No, so I would expect this failure to have occurred basically since the introduction of the test.
Yeah, because the strange thing is, like, I don't see any 18 failures, but it seems to be like 12, 16. And where I'm putting on that is, like, we're unlikely to have changed. Like 12 wouldn't have gotten a lot of changes, right?
Maybe depend from the version of compiler that we use. For example, in I don't know, we changed the minimum version of GCC in Node,
Right. And we use 6.5 on Ubuntu. I saw that in the workflow. And then I also tried to use that as well in my tests. I use both 6.5 and 7, and there's no failures locally, of course.
Actually, so go to it's just this array. Be blame? No. Okay, what blames? Okay, let's then. I'm just wondering if there was like any changes or something like. I got it. Obviously, that's not recent. Yeah, I don't see any.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah, I don't see anything there.
Yeah, I was using like conditional variables once, like I mean, in some project, and sometimes like they have very weird behaviors. Whenever you want to wake up this variable, like some cases people saying you need to do it under lock, and some other cases people saying under without lock. I've seen like some slight timing bugs depending how it's actually done. And maybe depending on internal implementation, can be some slight timing issues. Just trying to kind of brainstorm some ideas what can go wrong with using actual variables. Because technically, whenever we're waiting, we pretty much we underlog, but while we're waiting, we kind of releasing this clock. Then we need to kind of send a signal to wake it up, right? Like, and there are two school of thoughts, like should it happen under lock or without lock?
Let's see. Okay.
So it's maybe, and maybe like depending on different versions of library and stuff, people have a little bit different implementation, different requirements, a little bit, which may affect some timing just slightly, and can be different of if you're saying we're kind of in deadlock, it may be signals never get received, right?
Right. Okay. The thing is, so like the because we have the original, the non-typed ThreadSafe function sum class. It's basically it's pretty much the same test. So it uses both the mutexes and the conditional variables in the same way that they're used in the same way in both tests. So it's also really odd that we are only seeing failures on the typed sum instead of the normal sum, which I also can't explain because the tests are basically the same. The only difference, of course, is the Node API object that they're using.
It can be literally like some timing issue that in one case you have even maybe the whole structure is the same, but maybe like just few extra instructions being executed, and now like maybe different versions of Linux have a little bit different kind of scheduler for the different operations, and we're just hitting this unfortunate situation more often.
Right.
Right. We did change the test framework. I just wonder if that has any potential of being just looking for like, well, what would have changed? Like we didn't see these Now we have been seeing them for a while, right? Possibly even
Mhm.
for like a couple months. Just looking, I wonder if that, but it all comes back to like if we could recreate it.
Right. What was the PR that did the enhanced test framework?
This should...
That was the unit test filter,
right.
I recall. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't plan to change anything, but just it's possible we changed something.
It could have been formatting as well.
Yeah, I'm just more like, it's timing, these things to be timing. But maybe what makes sense if we can try Debian, because that seems to be where it happens. If it doesn't happen, then what I think the next step is we can ask to get you access if you're willing to take a look on the machines themselves.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Like we do have a process for doing that, saying, hey, we want somebody to be able to get on the machine. And we could get on there and see like, okay, does it actually recreate there? So.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan.
Okay, so maybe, yeah, give it a shot, because if you have your own machine that you can recreate, it'll be far easier.
Absolutely.
But if that doesn't work, then just let me know and I'll get the process going to get you access to the one where we see it fail quite a bit. I mean, I don't think it has to do with that particular PR, but it is happening enough that we probably really need to fix it.
Right.
In some way.
Yeah. And then regarding this oddity of not using the right node version, I was just going to simply modify the test to also output the node version, because we do.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and then if it's off, then we'll just take that as a separate issue.
Yep.
Because I don't think it's related to this at all. I was just trying to get like the right setup in order to try my best to replicate, But yeah, I'll try
definitely.
that different.
It's confusing, that it adds extra confusion, but yeah, I think you're right. If you add that in, and then we can open a separate issue if it looks wrong. So.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. And then that's all that I have.
Okay. Just looking here if there's any sort of new issues or convert to a standard string.
What?
Yeah, I don't think we can. We're not gonna. There's gonna have to be a copy, I think.
No, it should be just one copy. We don't need two copies. So I did it. We have this function. First function effectively measure the size of the string you need. Second, people then can use toString to say reserve how many bits they need, and then do the stuff. I can provide answer here. It should be
okay.
Should be
sounds good. This one, so that's not new. I don't think there's anything too new though. We can flip over to the node repo.
Unless it's node API like C++ specific. It's maybe, yeah. Let me have a look on this.
Okay. Did we get the right? No, I didn't get the right. What is the label anyway?
Submitted new PR yesterday about these finalizers, which we discussed. Yes, pure finalizers.
Okay. There we go. Okay, so let's do that. Let's get rid of issue. So is that this one? Or
no, I think the label is not there because I have no rights to assign labels. Okay. So somebody needs to do it. I have only like a prefix. In description, I have a node API prefix, but I submitted on late last night. Probably nobody saw it yet.
This one? Yeah.
No,
at least one of the ones that should have the label anyway.
No, it does not have label yet.
I'm just giving this the label.
Oh, you found it?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know why, but it was in a different window. So this one?
Yes, this, what's the name? I don't see name, sorry. Yes, pre-files. Yes.
Right, okay, so
if you look on the types first, like so basically what I'm proposing a couple of things. Like first of all, I'm introducing this new enum where we're pretty much saying, and again, I'm not good with names, better names, suggestions, welcome. So effectively we have two types. Maybe not even enum, maybe we should have flags. I don't know, it's also kind of, I'm open to ideas. But then I looked at, we have all this stuff every time we're sending all this native data, finalizers and stuff, like so many different fields. And it's like, let's do maybe one struct which encapsulates all of them in one single place. And what I found even inside of our code, we just simply can pass a pointer to this struct rather than copying these values again and again every single time. So we can hopefully even do some internal optimizations by using this struct. I also
does
renamed,
does that cause any chance that the caller is going to have to allocate more memory or anything?
No, but because this struct will typically be on the call stack. So it's so if you think from the perspective of then we call it a C function, we need to put all these parameters on a stack anyway. So here instead we're saying, okay, there is a struct on a stack, we're just sending pointer to this struct. So technically we'll probably extra pointer. And again, just for ABI safety, I made a new field version here. So in future, if we ever decide to extend it, so we can do it in ABI safe way. But otherwise,
right, without having to create a new method. That's
right. And there are a bunch of methods which kind of whatever we used to have finalizers before.
Mm-hmm.
So now all these methods receiving this new struct. And like last time we discussed, all this new method has a pretty much the same name but different prefix. Instead of an API, they have a node API prefix.
Right. Okay.
And internally, depending on this flag, we can actually call either synchronously or asynchronously. And thankfully, this call finalizer became non-virtual method now. It's all inside of a JS native API now. I had to do some magic about set immediate because asynchronous method have to do set immediate. So I put this, if you look inside of JS native API internal, so I have some kind of prototype there. So if somebody wants to implement JS native API v8 outside of Node, they just need to provide this set immediate template implementation. But inside of our code, we pretty much we're just calling set immediate from this environment, Node environment, as we used to do before. But now, like, what's important that now we can have this asynchronous finalizer call directly inside of JS native API.
This one or
yes,
yeah, okay.
Yeah, over here, yes. We see call finalizer. So first of all, we're checking this flag if it's uses.js, and we're saying call finalizer async, and it will be next function. Or we call it synchronously. And for synchronous call, you see I'm introducing something what I call finalizer context. And this guy, if you scroll up a little bit, does a few things. So most important that it prohibits using, it actually preserves current error state, because imagine like we execute some JavaScript. Maybe there is some kind of pending JavaScript exception, maybe something else. So thankfully what we do, we're preserving the current kind of error state somewhere here locally, and it just clean it up. Then we handle scope and stuff, and then we're saying we would like to prohibit any JavaScript call. Apparently, all our methods inside of our preamble, we check if we can call JavaScript or not.
Okay.
So
we already have a check for that, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
So what happened like before in this base class in JS native API, we always return true. So now I have introduced additional field prohibit call JS. And now we, instead of returning true, we call this prohibit call JS. So, and then in derived class, if you look on Node API CC, we see when we say can call into JS, I'm adding this
Right.
call to this superclass. Okay, sorry, I introduced this alias super.
Mhm.
And so previously it was just using node environment to can call into JS.
Right.
Field. Now, like I'm saying, like in our base class, we can also can prohibit for this while we're running finalizers essentially. So it's a kind of approach.
Right. Okay. So it's basically like, and the super class is.
If you look on H file, it's an alias to the base class.
Okay.
I just find it usually kind of in H. Oh, sorry, it's internals. Yes, Node API internals. So because Node API is public class, internals is actually class declaration. Yes. It's what I usually kind of whenever writing classes. It's more convenient to always refer to super instead of kind of every time remember what exactly public class kind of parent class name.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
It's up to you. I can use an API NV instead.
Okay. But yeah. Okay. So, but I think that'll take some. We'll have to go and take any other things you want to kind of highlight. We'll have to go and take a more closer look, obviously. But
my biggest question is about all these external buffers because then we're creating external buffer in our native API CC. We kind of call into this Node API CC, and I can try to do stuff, but I think it's has a kind of very unique pattern for destruction.
so, which parts are you talking about?
Oh, if it's Node API CC, if you scroll down a little bit, I think it's there is something about. Oh no, it's yeah. If you scroll down a little bit, it's about this. Yeah, it's here. I'm not sure if you guys can look a little bit closer to this buffer stuff because I'm not familiar with them that much inside of Node. And
Okay, create external
if I did it
buffer.
correctly.
So,
but at this point, I think it's a draft. I really want just us to discuss it if it's approach we want to proceed because currently I don't have additional tests. I don't have documentation change and stuff. I know that I still have big to-do lists. It's more like, could you preview it and see like, does it make sense to move forward with all this additional work?
okay, so it's a heads up to everybody to try and take a look. We can talk some more, give some more feedback. Okay. Any others that we should that people want to highlight? This one, I think.
It was simple.
I remember, is this progressing?
It's pretty much done. Like it's
right.
We're only probably missing someone clicking button to submit.
I think I asked you a question, which was like, there was like a non-blocking comment. And you said that's a good point, but so I wasn't sure whether, I should go ahead and land it or you want to maybe address that point, or I'm sort of good either way, but I wanted to know what you were thinking. Like land this and do a follow-on PR or not, or you wanted to do something before this lands.
I'm not sure how to implement it without enumerable because it actually, imagine it gives us all different methods, like in this set of methods, it's different. And because I originally did it and it didn't work, that's why I had to add it. It was the simplest way to work around it. So I can probably do it for current object only.
Okay. So basically, it sounds like you're like, yeah, we should land it the way it is my key question.
Okay, let me add this test. Like then I responded to it. I can do this. Like instead of going to this through the chain, I can add a couple of new tests.
Okay.
Add 2 tests. Okay.
Okay. So if you want, that was, didn't want to land if you were going to do something. So it sounds like if you do those, then I'll go ahead and.
Okay. Let me do it first.
Okay. Sounds good. Run
more tests are always better.
Yep.
And I also introduced this. Okay, somebody else want to discuss. I don't want to take.
No, go ahead. I don't think I see anything else on the list here. So
it was more. Remember, like with permanent, not permanent, but persistent ref count, it's also
Yep.
have there is PR for it as well.
Okay, so there's another pull request here. If I look at ref, maybe it'll show up. This one, is this it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
So I have new iteration for this stuff based on our last discussion. So previously, I remember I have created 4 different methods, and now like I am changing one of the methods, which now can accept a reference type, and
Right.
also adding another method to return this type.
Right.
Some most commenting changes.
Okay, so that one's ready for us to take another look at as well. As,
Yeah, yes, please. Mhm.
Okay, sounds good. Any other things we should talk about before we close out for today? If not, thanks for everybody's time, and we will see you in GitHub in next week. Thanks.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.